Ethan Caldwell had lived in Brooklyn his entire life. At 32 years old, he was a man who didn't let his blindness define him. He had lost his sight in a tragic accident as a teenager, but through unwavering determination, he had built a life of independence. His guide dog, Shadow, was his eyes, his protector, and most importantly, his best friend. But on one fateful evening, Ethan's world was thrown into chaos. It all started when Ethan visited a local coffee shop near his apartment, a routine he followed every afternoon. As he was about to leave, a commotion broke out outside. A store owner was yelling about a stolen wallet, and in the midst of the chaos, a police officer, Sergeant Bryce Walker, arrived on the scene, looking for someone to blame. "Stay right where you are," Walker's deep voice commanded. Ethan, confused, turned in the direction of the voice. "Excuse me?" he asked, gripping Shadow's harness. "You think I don't see what's going on?" Walker sneered. "Blind guy or not, you're acting suspicious. Where's the wallet?" Ethan was shocked. I don't even know what's happening. I didn't take anything." But Walker wasn't listening. Instead, his eyes landed on Shadow. "You know," he mused, "I've heard of thieves using service dogs to pull off cons like this. Clever distraction. Hand over the dog." Ethan's heart dropped. "Shadow is my guide dog. He's not going anywhere." "Not anymore," Walker smirked. And before Ethan could react, the officer ripped Shadow's leash from his hand. Panic surged through Ethan's veins. His whole world was built on trust, trust in Shadow, trust in his ability to navigate life despite his blindness. Without Shadow, he was lost. "Officer, please," he pleaded. "You're making a mistake." But Walker ignored him. Bystanders began whispering. A few took out their phones, recording the absurd scene. A blind man, helplessly standing as his service dog was confiscated like stolen goods. Ethan was trembling now, frustration and fear boiling over. Then, his hands tightened around his phone. He only had one option left. With a deep breath, he made the call. "Dad," Ethan's voice cracked. "They took Shadow." On the other end of the line, the air went silent. Then came the chilling response. "Who took him?" Ethan swallowed hard. "A cop. Officer Bryce Walker." There was a pause. Then, his father's voice turned ice cold. "I'll handle it." Judge Jonathan Caldwell wasn't just any judge. He was a legend. Known for his ruthless pursuit of justice, he had a reputation for making corrupt officers pay. That night, Ethan's father made calls that shook the entire precinct. Meanwhile, Walker strutted into the station with Shadow, claiming he had secured an asset. "You won't believe what I just dealt with," he told his fellow officers. "Some blind guy running a scam with his dog. Can you believe that?" His laughter was short-lived. Moments later, the police chief stormed in, his face like thunder. "Walker," he barked. "You are in serious trouble." Walker scoffed. "For what? Taking down a criminal?" The chief threw a folder onto the desk. Inside were legal documents, statements from eyewitnesses, and video footage from bystanders that had gone viral overnight. "You just unlawfully seized a blind man's guide dog," the chief growled. "Do you have any idea who his father is?" Walker flipped through the papers. His face paled. "The Honorable Judge Jonathan Caldwell." A lump formed in Walker's throat. His career, his entire life, flashed before his eyes. The very next morning, the courtroom was packed. The trial moved faster than anyone expected. Evidence piled against Walker, showing a pattern of abuse in his past cases. Ethan sat in the front row, feeling the weight of the moment. Shadow, finally returned, rested at his feet. Walker, once arrogant and untouchable, now sat before the court, facing a brutal reality. The judge, his father, spoke with controlled fury. You took away a man's independence. You stripped him of his rights. You failed in your duty to protect and serve. The room was silent. And then the hammer dropped. Officer Bryce Walker, Judge Caldwell's voice rang through the courtroom. You are hereby stripped of your badge and sentenced to 5 years in prison. Gasps filled the room. Walker's face drained of all color. Justice had been served. As Ethan and Shadow left the courthouse, a crowd had gathered outside. Reporters. Activists. People who had followed the story from the moment it hit social media. A journalist rushed up to him. Ethan, do you have anything to say? Ethan smiled, kneeling to rub Shadow's fur. Yes. No one should ever underestimate the bond between a blind person and their guide dog. The world had watched a blind man take on corruption, and win. The video of the courtroom's verdict went viral, hitting millions of views in a matter of days. People rallied behind Ethan, turning his story into a movement. Want to see more stories of justice being served? Subscribe to our channel, hit that like button, and share this video with your friends. Let's make sure stories like this never go unheard. Justice is real. And sometimes, the consequences are brutal.